Hi everybody, this is Editing Sarah here. How are you doing? I just wanted to come on and do a little bit of an introduction here because I realized that I explicitly established at the start of this video that I was doing this project during spring break of this year, but as you can guess by the fact that this is going up in July, it actually ended up taking me a lot longer than that. So it might be a little confusing with the dates, but you know, I'm very busy and good things take time. So even though I started this in April and it is now going up in July, I still hope that you enjoy it. Thanks for watching. It's spring break. Oh yeah, it's spring break. Anyway, hi everybody. As you might be able to tell, I am very excited right now because it is finally spring break. This year, honestly, has just been something else. There's been work stuff that I've been dealing with. I'm busy all the time. I just finished my first book of 2023. It is March 31st. That's how long it took me because I just entered like a spiral reading slump. However, I'm very excited, specifically that it's spring break, because I have an exciting plan for these next 10 or 11 days. So this all started when I was walking past my bookshelf, not my TBR shelf, granted, but my actual just bookshelf, and I spotted on it Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. Now, like I said, this didn't actually make it onto my TBR shelf for this year, but this was about a month ago, I want to say, and I just walked past the shelf and I saw it and I was like, I just really want to read that book. I have a stack of books about 10 high right now that I'm behind on because of this reading slump that I want to get to. These are the books that I've chosen for the first 3 or 4 months of the year. But I just really want to read this one, and especially because I've, you know, been kind of lukewarm on my reading, I really feel like I should read what I want to read for at least the time being. For those of you who don't know, Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel is a book about a flu pandemic that sort of wipes out most of civilized society, which feels a little timely considering that we've just been through a pandemic and they're still kind of in one. And in this, it shows you the pandemic sort of spreading in its initial stages, and then from what I understand, it follows 20 years later a group of performers called the Traveling Symphony who go around the settlements in this post-apocalyptic world and perform Shakespeare plays. I'm not normally a huge dystopia reader. I like the idea of dystopia, but I don't tend to like sort of sadder, darker, heavier books, and by its nature, even if there's a hopeful message to it, dystopia is serious and dark and a little bit on the bleaker side and sad. So I don't read a lot of it, but I am interested particularly in this one. It's got the Shakespeare angle that I really like, and I've heard such great things about it. I really feel like this book is going to be a hit for me. Now, at the same time as I was starting to get really interested in reading this book, I started to get interested in another thing as well, which is I began to want to watch The Last of Us. The Last of Us is typically also not my cup of tea. We're really taking some risks here because it's a dystopia, and also I don't tend to love zombies as a genre of story creatures. Now I know these aren't typical like zombies in the way that we see in like Evil Dead and things like that, but it's close enough that it's like, we're really treading a line of whether or not I'm gonna feel okay with this. But just like Station 11, I had heard so many good things about the series. Ever since like episode 3 started to get all of this really good press, all of a sudden I was just hearing more and more about it, and the performances by Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal just getting all of this hype. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna watch it and we'll see how I do with it. So then, of course, the idea that emerged was, why not do these things simultaneously? So there just happen to be 9 parts. There's more than 9 chapters, but there's 9 parts in Station 11, and there are 9 episodes in Season 1 of The Last of Us. So over the course of my spring break, which is just over 9 days, I am going to try to read 1 part a day of this book and watch 1 episode every evening of The Last of Us. I do have church every evening because it's Holy Week. We're coming up to Easter, and at my church we have a service every night. But most of them are pretty short, so I think I'll still be able to pull this off. I'm calling this little mini challenge the Dystopia Double Feature. And I am excited. I've been excited about this for a month now. I wanted to watch The Last of Us while it was airing, and it was everything I could do to keep myself from just jumping ahead and saying, you know, screw the challenge, I'm just gonna watch it now, because I knew that it would pay off if I got to do this double feature. So it starts tonight. I am going to pick this book up now, and then in a couple of hours after I have dinner, I'm going to watch episode 1 of The Last of Us, and we're just going to see where it goes from there. Y'all, I forgot how fast tulips, like, bloom. Yesterday I got these at Wegmans, and they all kind of looked like this when I got them in the bouquet. But look at this one! Just, like, popped open overnight. That's less than 24 hours after I got it. So it's now Sunday. It's day 2 of my Dystopia double feature. And I'm doing a pretty good job with my reading so far. That's coming along great. What I haven't done is started watching The Last of Us yet. I just got a little bit too tired last night to start it. But then I realized that it feels really weird to watch a show like The Last of Us on my computer screen. So I think it's time that I set up my TV. This TV I did get at a Black Friday sale back in late November, early December. And I know what you're thinking. It's April, and I still haven't set this TV up. So here's the reason why. You might remember this actually from my Vlogmas videos. I ordered a TV stand with the intent of putting this TV on it. And I ordered it from Wayfair. It was on sale. It was a really nice TV stand. And it just my shipment kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed like 3 or 4 times until eventually they sent me an email saying that that model had been discontinued. So it was just never going to show up. And they gave me a credit, and that's great, and I'm going to use it to order another TV stand. But I haven't all this time because, in my mind, like, my brain has already checked off that to-do list. I don't know if any of you guys are like this. But once I've done the task, even if it wasn't successfully done, my brain is like, check, you've already done it, it's not on the to-do list anymore. So even though I can tell my brain over and over again, like, the TV it's not coming, the TV stand is not coming, you have to order another one. It doesn't want to do it because it's convinced that it's already done that. So I am ordering another TV stand from Wayfair. I'll order it this week. Hopefully it'll come soon. But until then, I'm going to put the TV on these dining room chairs because I have 4 chairs around my dining room table, but you know, it's usually just me here. So these will be a good placeholder until the TV stand comes, and then maybe I'll feel motivated to start watching the show. Okay, moment of truth. Yay! I saw something happen! Yay! I'm an adult.
Hello. Experience the extraordinary with your Samsung screen.
It speaks to me.
2 simple options.
It is now day 3 of my dystopia double feature spring break project, which so far is still a dystopia single feature. I am up to date on my reading of Station 11, but I have not yet started. There goes the book. I have not yet started The Last of Us, which I know might be weird if you're hearing that, because you would think that watching the TV show would be the easier thing to be up to date on, because it takes just that little bit less effort. But I think what my brain is doing is it's realizing correctly that it is easier to catch up on 2 to 3 episodes of a television show if you get behind on that than it is to catch up on reading 2 to 3 30-page parts of a novel. So I've prioritized staying on track with my book, and I'm going to spend today watching probably at least 2 episodes, if not 3, of The Last of Us. Probably 2. I know I haven't seen any of it yet, but I know that this show is pretty heavy, so I don't think I have it in me to do 3 in a day, but we'll see how obsessed I get. My verdict on Station 11 so far is that I am really liking it. It's still a little bit slow for me. I'm 70 pages into the book, and we've got some great world building going on. I'm really liking the world that she's establishing, but it's still... My problem with the last book that I read, I don't remember if I said this earlier in the vlog, is that it was very, very slow because it kept switching between perspectives so much that it made the pace of reading individual chapters faster, but it slowed down the pace of the plot of the book so much. And so I think my brain is craving a faster paced novel. And this one is really taking its time on the world building, which I think is what it needs to do. But I'm enjoying it so far. I'm interested to see where this is going. I do think that I am 95% sure that I know what they're hinting at in terms of who this prophet is. I don't know if that's supposed to be like a big twist or something like that, but I'm bad at guessing things, and the few clues that they've dropped, I'm pretty certain I know where this is going. So we'll see. I won't tell you, because of spoilers, I won't tell you what I'm thinking, but I will tell you if I'm right. Alright, y'all, you are getting like the real unfiltered Sarah here. My hair is not combed. I am bleary-eyed still from having woken up just a few minutes ago. But I was able for the first time in 2023 to sleep with my window open last night because it was warm yesterday. And I'm going to tell you guys, I forgot how much better sleep I get when that window is open. Like, man, I slept for almost 10 hours last night, and I feel like I've been run over by a truck this morning, so it's not like I'm jumping up full of energy, but it's like, it's the way that that happens when you can tell that you slept like really hard, rather than the kind of tired that you feel when you know that you haven't gotten enough sleep. So, I mean, I really hope we can keep the window open for a couple more days, because I could use a few more nights of sleep like that. Y'all, guess what time it is? It's The Last of Us time. Okay, it is an absolutely gorgeous day outside. Another absolutely gorgeous day. It is like high 70s, maybe even 80. Partly cloudy, like really nice. But I haven't really been outside today, and in fact, I've done a couple of productive things. I did some dishes and ran the dishwasher. I replied to an email from our family's accountant about taxes. But I haven't like done that much other than read and like those very basic tasks. And I took a long nap even though I didn't really need one. I'm starting to feel like kind of like a vegetable, which usually means if it's a nice day like this that I need to get outside. So I'm gonna take out the trash. Got my trash right here. You didn't need to see that. And once I've done that, I am going to go to the library. I don't need anything from the library, but browsing around the books always makes me, you know, feel a little bit better. I might stop into a local performing arts center that's right across the street, because I remember them having a gallery in there, and I want to see if they've got anything good in the gallery right now. And then I think I might stop and get a smoothie on my way back. So let's go do that. In retrospect, I should have brought some took me 3 months in 2023 to read my first book of the year, and regardless of how I end up feeling about this book, I'm already almost halfway through. So that's pretty good. Not today. Also, in a deeply frustrating turn of events, it is going to start raining, like really start raining in earnest, at pretty much exactly the time that I am leaving for the ballet tonight, and I want to wear a dress. So that's annoying. So I'm going to the ballet tonight. Very, very exciting. We are seeing the Joffrey Ballet at the Kennedy Center. And I decided I wanted to dress up a little bit. So this is what I'm wearing. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Sarah, it is 83 degrees outside. Why are you wearing a long sleeve knitted dress? But here's my rationale. Stay with me with this. It is 83 degrees right now. It's so hot. By the time I get to the theater at about 7 p.m., it's going to be 71 degrees because there's a storm coming in. By the time I leave the Kennedy Center at 10 p.m., it's going to be 59 degrees. So I am dressing for the weather I expect later, not the weather that I'm in right now. Also, if I know one thing about the Kennedy Center, it's that it is going to be cold in there. And I don't want to be freezing through this entire ballet performance. Also, I did think about doing a spring color, but the ballet we're seeing is Anna Karenina, so it seemed like I should wear something a little darker for the depressing Russian vibes. Happy Easter, everybody. I am home now. I've spent the last day or so at my parents' house for the Easter holiday, but I'm back now and I've slowed down on my reading and The Last of Us watching significantly because of the holiday, so I think I'm gonna spend the rest of the day doing that. So I realize it's been actually a little while in this vlog since I talked about how I'm actually feeling about the book that I'm reading and the show that I'm watching. There's plenty of footage of me doing those things, but I haven't really been talking about my reactions as I go. So I thought I'd take a moment to do that. I am currently less than 150 pages from the end of Station 11. Again, it's taking me a little longer than I expected it to, but I'm on part 6 of 9. And I'm enjoying this book. I don't think it's going to end up being a 5-star read though, which is surprising because I really thought that this would be a 5-star read for me. It's probably going to be a solid 4 stars, maybe 3.75 if I'm like feeling really critical when I get to the end of it. And I'm trying to sort of put into words why I'm kind of ambivalent about what I'm reading in this book. I think there's a couple things, and one of them is that, weirdly enough, even though I don't tend to love super dark subject matter, although we'll come back to that when I start talking about The Last of Us, I actually think that I kind of want this book to be a little bit darker than it is. Not that I necessarily need that shock value component, especially for a book, but I think there's an element of the way in which this is describing this apocalypse unfolding that is kind of, I don't know if dispassionate is the right word, but almost matter of fact. There's a few moments where you encounter a dead body or something like that, and it's a moment that kind of knocks you sideways a little bit, but other than that, we're kind of just on an even keel going through elements of this world. And I think I want something a little bit more heightened, maybe. Maybe that's what it is. The other thing that I'm finding is that, much like the book that I finished reading before this, which was The Sun Is Also a Star, we have a book that switches between multiple perspectives, multiple timelines. So we have plot events that happen during and immediately after this pandemic, and then we have the post-apocalyptic world 20 years later, as well as an interview with one of the characters from 5 years before that, so 15 years after the pandemic. And then we have Kirsten's perspective, we have Clark's perspective, we have Jeevan's perspective, we have stuff from Arthur's life and Miranda's life way before the pandemic. And I know that what it's doing is creating sort of this picture of how these people's lives, as they come together, end up influencing other people's lives and creating the position that the characters are in this world. But it's not really working for me in the way that they're doing it, because I do really like reflective books. Reflective is one of my number one moods on Storygraph for books that I like. And I do like when everything is connected in that way, but it just doesn't feel like it's leading to anything in particular for me, and it does make the book move really, really slow. And I just got off of a book that moved really slow and didn't like that about it, so I don't know, maybe I just need something that is going to move a little faster and be a little more high interest on, I guess, a more surface level. This may just not have been the right time for this book as well, but I am still enjoying it. I agree it's very well written. It just might not end up being my favorite Emily St. John Mandel book. Now, weirdly enough, we have a paradox here, because while Station 11 is taking elements in fiction that I tend to rank really highly, and they're not hitting for me, The Last of Us is taking elements of media that I tend to viscerally dislike and is making them work for me. So I've watched 2 episodes of The Last of Us so far. I didn't make a lot of progress in this week on watching a TV show like I thought it would. I think I was just so happy to be reading that adding a TV show, even though I had all this free time, it just did not become possible. But I've watched 2 episodes. I'm going to watch the 3rd one later tonight. And so far, my first impression is that this show is disgusting. It's so gross. Like, and I talked about zombies and not liking zombies, but right up there with zombies, if not ahead of them, on my list of things in media that I would rather avoid is body horror. And good lord, the body horror in this is so, like, grotesque, I think is the right word that I want for this. It's so horrifying. So I am squirming on the couch every time I watch it. It's so, like, the suspense is getting me. It's so gross. And I don't like zombies. At the same time, I'm having a really good time watching this show. Like I said, the suspense is great. The cinematography is great. They've introduced a really high interest plot, and I'm invested in it, and I'm ready to see more. And it's just, it's taking some things that I really don't tend to like, and instead of doing them in a way that it doesn't bother me, it does bother me. It bothers me so much, but I still want to keep watching. It doesn't really turn me off. So I'm really enjoying that. I'm enjoying the book too, but not as much as I hoped I would. And I will keep you posted as I keep going through this. It's going to continue into the, the days after spring break, obviously. But as I have more information to share, I will keep you posted. Okay, it is time for the wrap-up of my Dystopia double feature, finally. It is early July at this point, and I've been trying to wait until I was finished with both the book and the TV show in order to film this wrap-up. I didn't want to get ahead of myself. So let's start, actually, with the part of this that I finished most recently, which is The Last of Us. So watching The Last of Us is part of the reason that this vlog is going up so much later than I expected. There's 2 reasons why it took me so long to watch this show, even though it's only 9 episodes. The first one is that inadvertently I had timed this, if it went past spring break, which obviously it did, I had timed this challenge for one of the 2 busiest times of the school year, with just so much testing and trying to get those final grades in. And then I haven't talked a lot about this, but I'm in the midst of a big job transition. I'm switching schools, so that was all in play at this time. And it was not a good time to be watching a TV show, even a shorter number of episodes. And then the other reason was, even though this is such a great show, it's so dark. So you can't really marathon watch it unless you really, like, get excited by that kind of dark storytelling. And I just felt like I needed a really long break after every episode. That being said, this is a great show. I kind of mentioned this before, but this was one of those shows that could have gone either way for me because it has a lot of stuff that I tend to find particularly disturbing, so it could have been the sort of show that really was difficult for me to watch. And in some ways it was difficult, but not as much as I had been worried that it would be. And it had a lot of things in it that really draw me in. It's got some great emotional story arcs. The acting is wonderful. I'm expecting it to do really, really well at the Emmys this year, which the nominations come out later this month. There's a lot of great sort of representation in there. There's some LGBTQ plus representation. There's like deaf and disability representation. And those two in particular, I feel like we don't see them as much in like dystopias. I don't know, I haven't read as many dystopias as maybe I could have, but I feel like you see it in passing, but you don't see as much of a focus on it as you could. And you get a pretty good chunk of it in episodes of this series. That being said, of course, they are very dark episodes. They all end in tears. So be prepared for that, but it's really, really good. I would recommend it. I'm sorry that I don't have more footage of me watching The Last of Us. I kind of hoped to make that a bigger part of this vlog, but I'm still fairly new at recording things, and I just could not find a way to make video shots of my television screen interesting, especially because I didn't want the footage that you're going to see in this video to be spoilery. So I'm sort of just sitting there taking shots of like the least pivotal footage that I can find in the episodes. And I'm not really experienced yet at just leaving the camera running while I'm watching either. So that makes it hard to get good footage of me organically reacting to something. So that's kind of why the footage of me actually watching the show stops after episode 3. So then the other half of this, of course, was me reading Station 11. And you've heard some of my thoughts about this already. I ended up giving this book a 3.5 stars, which was really surprising for me. I genuinely expected to like this book a lot more than I did, and I maintain that it's still a good book. I just stand by what I've said before, which is that I just don't think it was telling this particular story in the way that I would have wanted the story to be told. It does switch around a lot between different perspectives, and to the extent that I felt like I really wanted it to narrow its focus down onto something more immediate, either the aftermath of the pandemic or this traveling symphony 20 years later, whatever it was, I just sort of wanted them to focus on fewer things. I also noticed, as I got closer to the end of the book, that things seemed to not be as high stakes as I wanted them to be, and I didn't like the resolution. I felt like it justified how multiple things were connected, but it didn't sort of justify for me why we were on this journey with these characters at this time. Without saying any more, I'm trying to avoid some spoilers here. So while there were some really good moments, ultimately I was kind of left unsure what point I was supposed to take away. So I would recommend Station 11, but I actually want to end this vlog by recommending another book to you as well. Sort of a tangential recommendation, because while it is actually about a pandemic, it's not a post-apocalyptic dystopia. So the book I would like to recommend to you is The Great Believers by Rebecca Mackay. This is actually a book about the AIDS crisis in Chicago in the 1980s. And just like in Station 11, it juxtaposes the immediate moment when a pandemic is spreading to 20 years later, someone who was sort of peripherally involved at the time, living a new life afterwards. So structurally, it does the same thing that Station 11 does. And while I don't want to say that a real-life historical event is the same as a fictional post-apocalyptic pandemic, it is about a pandemic. So there's a similar topic in both of these books. The main reason, I guess, that I'm recommending The Great Believers is because I think while it doesn't do exactly the same thing sort of genre-wise, it's not a sci-fi dystopia, it does tonally what I wanted Station 11 to do. And I kept thinking about this book over and over again, particularly as I got to maybe the last like 150 pages of Station 11. Because what The Great Believers is really, really good at is conveying this growing sense of dread. And part of the reason that we're able to feel that dread so effectively is because we know what the AIDS epidemic was. Like, we know the devastation that it caused. We know historically how it spread and how we came out the other end of that disease. So from our perspective, we have a great viewpoint from which to view the story. But Rebecca Makkai as an author also does an amazing job of conveying from the very start this sense of horror, almost. In the first chapter, there's a moment that I always remember where our main character he's at like a celebration of life for the first friend of his to die of AIDS, and he's feeling kind of overwhelmed, so he goes upstairs and lies down for like 20 minutes, and when he comes back downstairs, everybody at the party has disappeared. They're all gone, and he's wandering around this empty house wondering where everybody went, and you know, feeling like he's the only person left in the world, which is not only a great metaphor for the loss that potentially is to come in the book, but also a really great sort of callback to post-apocalyptic things. So that stuck in my mind, and the way in which you have all of these characters sort of either narrowly avoiding or tragically succumbing to this disease, and the Great Believers is kind of, if not with disease itself, is kind of the way that I had hoped Station 11 would feel when I read it. So I'm recommending this book not just because it's a great book, and not because it does topically what I wanted Station 11 to do, but because the feeling that it evoked is the feeling that I wanted Station 11 to evoke. So this was kind of a new video for me to do, filming myself doing a sort of double feature project like this. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you want to see more videos like this, please let me know. I can come up with some other ideas for them. And until then, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!